Hi, y'all. It's Bridget Cutshaw with Real Things Living. Today, my guest is Nancy Torres. She's a second grade teacher and a recent author of a children's book that she wrote last year. Can you say hi, Nancy?
Hi.
I'm so glad that we connected. I'm so glad you have made the time to be on the podcast. And I think what you did is wonderful. My understanding is you wrote this book last year during COVID. Can you share what prompted you to dive into writing a book?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, first, thank you so much for having me on your podcast. This is so much fun and just a really great opportunity. And I'm just grateful for you and your time, sharing your community with me. So I wrote Say It With Me about a year ago. And so I had taken a book writing class and I've always wanted to write a book. I always thought my book though, I thought it would be a memoir. I thought it would be a memoir or a coffee table kind of book. And then I took this writing class, and one of the other peers in the class said she was thinking about writing board books. And I was like, I could write a board book, especially at this time in my life. My son is 1 at the time about, right? And all we read are board books at that age. And so I'm like, I think, and then it began to evolve into, what about a picture book? And that was something I was super familiar with, being a teacher, and also, it's board books, picture books, and all that. And then I tried a couple of ideas, and it began to flow. The first book that my publisher was originally interested in was a meditation board book. And then I began to think of, I had a couple of other ideas, and I tried writing Say It With Me. And I read it to my mom friends, and they began tearing up and were like, I love this book. This is amazing. And so I reached back out to my publisher, Wheat Penny Press, and I was like, hey, just so you know, I have another manuscript, and I did a table read, and it got a really great positive reaction. And so I sent it over, and they were like, this is the book we're going with. And so that is how that began to unfold.
I think that's cool that you took the time to learn to write a book because you always wanted to do it. But then it pivoted to something different. Right? Obviously it was meant to be, right? To write about.
Yeah. Well, and in hindsight now, right? Looking back at it, I'm like, this was actually the book that I was supposed to publish, because it was the book that I needed as a kid. It was kind of like a very full circle. I always would wonder what life would have been like had I learned all these self-development tools as a child, as opposed to my 20s, my 30s.
Right. It's something that we all need. I think.
Yeah.
So can you confirm what Say It With Me is about? I know you mentioned it's about affirmation was the main focus.
Yeah. So Say It With Me is this beautiful story about a mother modeling to the child how to affirm oneself. And so throughout the book, they do it in this manner of playing the game, Say It With Me, very similar to Simon Says, but, verbal. And so what's great about it is that while the child is learning these affirmations, how to affirm themselves, how to build their own confidence, the book is written in both Spanish and English. And so the exposure to dual language, right, in this activity book, in this sort of like an activity thing that an adult and a child can do together, they're like learning how to build their own confidence authentically. And so by the end of the book, not that it's a spoiler alert, but at the end of the book, the child then begins to affirm the mom, the adult. And that's just a really beautiful moment, because then the child has now learned has developed their own practice, right? It's like the beginning of their own practice of affirmations.
I think that's really great. I like how you said it builds confidence. It also at the same time exposes to a dual language, and I think that is so important. I didn't have that. I don't growing up, right? It was either English or some other another language, and the confidence thing is important too for kids. Some of them have issues, which is normal. I shouldn't say issues are normal, but they're lacking
struggles, like their own struggles.
Yeah, their own struggles. And then You are a second grade teacher. Did you think some of your experience maybe motivated you into, subconsciously?
Oh,
Maybe?
absolutely. So before writing, I had this children's company called Emotion Ocean, and it was based off of 5 pillars, which are meditation, affirmations, gratitude, dance party, and journaling. And these were all tools, again, that I had learned, and then I would bring into the classroom and teach them, because I saw the same thing in them, which was whether it was lack of self-esteem or unsure of themselves or wanting, that out external validation, which is totally normal, but also really wanting them to know themselves and knowing, believing in them. And so these are all tools that I definitely have used in my classroom, that I see have worked, that the students, even the ones who at first are like, whatever, will eventually get to, and they're doing it. They know how to jot an affirmation down on a Post-it, and they know what to say. So absolutely my experience in the classroom has absolutely influenced it.
It sounds so positive what you're doing for the kids. You're being a really good positive role model, and it's so important. And I, as you know, my podcast is about resilience as well, and so affirmation is in a way connected, right?
Oh, absolutely. Well, I say that part of, and this, right? In building confidence, you are building resiliency,
Yes.
right? Like you're able to take more to, whether it's, okay, this really just triggered me, or this, changed my game plan of where I was going. It doesn't take you out of the game as long as it used to previously, right? Because you have built this confidence, you've built this resiliency in you.
That's so cool. So it's been a while since I've had a second grader or a young baby. So do you teach different subjects, or is there a particular subject that you focus on?
No, I'm the classroom teacher. So I do reading, math, social studies, science, all of it. Yeah. Except for the specials, which are art, computers, gym. Right.
They get a break, or the teachers get a break. I just remember you're talking about all this stuff about the affirmations, and it just brought back a thought to me when I was, I think, first grade. I don't know if it was, it was probably first grade, and probably do a lot of coloring sessions still too, right? They still do that.
So I'm always like, if you can color it, color it.
Well, I remember I got the teacher made a comment to me that I was coloring a cow. I'd used the purple crayon. And I think probably only did because we were sharing a box and someone else had the black and brown. And she got on to me for that. And I remember saying, why can't a cow be purple? Right. And so that's, I thought that was kind of weird that, so it made me kind of, what's the word? I don't know, I wasn't mad, but I didn't.
Well, there's that little shame factor, right? Like that little, like.
In front of all my classmates, I felt shamed. And so I had to talk back. Well, my cow can be purple, and
I love it. I love that you were like, I'm speaking up.
But I really think in my back of my mind, probably because the brown and black were already were being used by somebody else. But I just try to, go with the flow. I think that's good.
Well, that's your creativity, right? Like you could have totally sat there and been the child who was going to wait for the crayon and not done anything. And you were like, I want to get into this activity. I'm doing it as well. My cow is purple. I mean, and why not?
Right. I thought I think maybe it is actually one of my favorite colors, by the way. So I just, is why I did it. But
yeah.
And I don't remember getting too much trouble, but I did talk a lot in class. So I'm sure you have that problem. You have students who
Well, I was a student who used to talk a lot in class. So I always, every parent teacher conference, they'd be like, Nancy's really blah, 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 but she talks a lot. But she talks. And what funny, right? Fast forward, I ended up majoring in college in communications. And it's one of my strengths. You and I were both like people, we're like in the industry of, communicating with people. Communication is a very, very huge part, and that's our strength.
That's true. And that's kind of why, right. I learned that I had that skill, and I stood up for myself, which is good. I didn't really, get like you, I got on my report card a lot, Bridget talks too much. But I had an opinion too sometimes. So
Right.
I don't know if that was good or bad, but I think it's just the way you're, your personality and where you're raised. I was the middle child too. I don't know how you.
I'm the oldest. I'm the oldest. So
And
I didn't really have, I love that you just said you were able to, you shared your opinion. I was like, I wasn't able to share my opinion. I wish I would have been able to share my opinion.
because I was the middle child and had an older
Yes.
sibling, and so I had to make sure. Well, this is my opinion. And,
Yeah.
but they just thought it was funny. Most of my teachers, they like that aspect of it, but again, going back to the books are so helpful. We learn so much from it, and I like how you are connecting the mother and the child reading it, and that's an activity I think a lot of parents do now. Well, I did. We read to our kids, and just a great connection.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and again, it was inspired by my son and I, and it's interesting because the other day, I've read it to him, but there's other cooler books, right? And he's in dinosaurs. There's no dinosaurs in Say It With,
Yes.
right? And so it was so about like this weekend, because now we're Tuesday. The book was in my bedroom and he was like on my bed and I said, do you want me to read it? And he was like, yeah. And I was reading it and it was so weird. It was such a weird moment. Good, but very like I'm reading the book that I wrote, inspired by us, talking about us, but also using it both because we're trying to raise him bilingual, right? But also it's this raising him to know how to self-love himself, knowing what do I do when someone in school, because I'm not around all the time for him, right? He's in school, he we're not attached at the hip. And so someone will say something to him or he'll feel a certain way, and knowing how I want him to have that tool of how do I, if I fall down, how do I get myself back up? If I'm feeling a certain way, how do I get myself back to baseline? What can I do? And so it was very like, okay, this is good. This is good.
Does he know his mom wrote it? Does he understand? He probably doesn't understand the depth of it.
He understands that the cover is me and him.
Gotcha.
And I read it to his school, virtually, all the classes were on Zoom. And I don't know if he understands that I wrote a book and yeah. He doesn't understand that, like, maybe not everyone else's mom wrote a book, it just, to him, it's just like, this has been a part of him.
Normal.
Right. It's normal for him. It's like normal. Like, why is that a big deal?
I think one day he'll realize how cool his mom is. Right.
I hope so.
One day. And
yeah.
But kids, it's so important what you're doing, just interacting with him and showing him, it is about affirming your connection with each other.
Yeah. Yeah.
And how, and again, you mentioned the dual language. I think that is so cool. That makes it very unique as well.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
I really like that. So is your background, I'm assuming it's Spanish. Is your background Spanish? Or?
Yes. So I was born in Ecuador, came here with my parents when I was 6 months old. And the reason why it was so important for this book to be bilingual, to be dual language, was because I wanted it to be accessible to whether it's people learning English, whether people are learning Spanish, and having it, let's say you just only speak one of those languages, right? And one of those languages happens to be Spanish, and you're trying to learn English, or you're trying to learn Spanish. It just allows for that exposure to happen very naturally.
You understand it better too, and probably the graphics, but the art in there too.
Yeah, the illustrations for sure. And I was very intentional. Again, Sebastian was 1 around that time. So we had books that were in English, books in Spanish. Very, very few books was I able to access that had both the text in English and Spanish on the same page. And I loved the ones that had that, because I just thought visually it's an easy translation. It's an easy way to understand it, to have that exposure. And so in Say It With Me, the text is in English and in Spanish on the same page. And you can directly be learning or practicing how to translate either language.
I think that I wish I had something like that when I was younger, because that would help too, to because we have so many different people from different backgrounds in the US, they really help. I wish we had that. You know, I was raised in the South by a French mother, right? So I understand French a little bit, but it was hard to connect my other friends to my mother. Does that make sense? Yeah, it was just really, so she had to work harder. You know what I'm saying? And you
Oh,
understand
absolutely.
your parents probably had the same thing, had to work harder
Oh, for sure.
to fit in.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah, absolutely. I mean, you're learning a new language, or assimilating to a whole new culture, to a whole new country, a whole new way of life. You know, and I'm sure you do as well. Just give my hat off completely to have been able to do that at such a young age. You know, they were like in their 20s, early 20s. So at that point, you've already established your own family and life. You
Yeah.
know, we're from Ecuador, to then come and start it all over again with an addition to learn the language. I mean, that's just,
That's very brave. And I think that
yeah,
it is very brave. And I think also when you understand the different languages, I think I have more empathy for other people.
yeah, absolutely.
I listen a lot better. And I've catch myself when I am around my French family, I do speak after I start speaking different. I think
You pick it up, right? You pick up the accent.
right. And at one point I lived in Wisconsin. At one point, I know this sounds crazy, but I went to the University of Wisconsin and I started talking differently. Just I was picking up, probably because of my mother, I pick up their accents. The right, I guess that's the right word. I don't know why I would do that.
Gee, I do the same thing. I'm about to start picking up your accents. Like, I don't know if you've noticed it. I will pick up accents so quickly. And I don't know if it's just like the code switch, the assimilation or what, but I will pick up an accent and suddenly it's not.
Right, I don't mean to do it. Right, I don't. It's just I think because I was raised by a French woman in the South, and we used to.
Right.
So I'm like, oh, I got to fit in somehow, subconsciously, right?
Yeah.
So you want to fit in with the cool kids, whoever you're around.
Right.
It's just amazing how the things you learned, and then you're applying it with the book. And I'm assuming you're going to do another one because I think this is a very helpful book. I hope you're going to do another one.
Yes, I would love to do another one. It's one of those 5 focuses, whether it's an elaboration on the meditation book, or the journaling, or the dance party, or gratitude. Yes, and I have the title for the journal book, which is Paper, Pencil, and Me. I have not written it out yet, but I have like the title. I'm like, that's a start.
That is a good start. I kind of have the end in sight, and then you just got to fill it in. And
Yeah.
Assuming it'll be another children's book, right?
Yes, another children's book. Yes. Who knew? Who knew that I would be a children's author? I did not. You know, if you asked me years ago, it was a memoir, and now I'm like, this is fun. This feels fun. Yeah. Right, but this feels fun. This is and maybe because I'm in this, new mom stage, and so I'm like, re-immersed in early literacy, but I'm really enjoying it. And I love seeing, which was cool. And I didn't even think of this when I wrote it, or pitching it or anything, is now, the book was released, and then my students coming in and being like, I love your book, and being like, ooh, so that immediate review, that immediate feedback.
So you are like, your students are used in person now again? Is that what it is? Or
Yes. So in January, we began my school's, the students who wanted to opt in were able to opt in. And we're Monday to Friday, full days.
Wow. I think that's good. I mean, I
love it. I personally love it.
It was probably hard on you guys, the teachers and the students and the parents last year when that happened. And you're in New York, is my understanding, right? So that was
right. So I was still on childcare leave last school year. So okay. I came back in September, and we were doing cohorts. We were doing like A, C, B. It was just a lot, and then remote. But I personally did not like remote. I think it was very challenging, very hard. And I also, because I was on childcare leave for 2 years, I liked leaving the house and going to work, you
Yeah,
know,
you need a little
like
break.
the separation of state, like it was
Right.
nice.
My sister, I think when we spoke previously, my sister's a seventh grade teacher, and
Yes, yes.
that was hard for her because where we lived, she had less than 24 hours to come up with a solution
Wow.
online, and it's gotten better they're in person now, but some students are opting out, right? So that makes
Right.
it, I think, one day a week she does work remotely, and then Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday she goes in. It just depends on what subject
Right.
the teachers, and then seventh grade is really probably the toughest.
Yeah. Well, that's a different world. That's a world that I don't know anything about.
Brave too. She's very
She's
brave.
very brave. Yes.
And I've had done a couple of times to speak at the school on certain things. I don't know, 'cause I'm in the printing and book business and all that. So they're just so fascinated when they hear about that kind of stuff. And so they appreciate, maybe because my sister is one of the superstar teachers there, maybe.
Oh, for sure. If your sister's a superstar teacher, you're automatically a star. And it's just
Right.
like,
Right. She's got a really good reputation. And she's the one when we were younger. Well, she said my kids are younger, she helped me with my kids because she
that's
was,
lovely.
it is helpful because she was going to college, and then I was in the traveling a lot. So and I saw how good she was with kids, and I'm like, this should be because I'm good with kids, but not at the same level as you and my sister.
Right.
Different
Right.
thing, if that makes sense. So
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Everyone has their own area of like where this is your zone. This is where you
and I
have
saw
it.
how she was around kids, and that's why I kind of hopefully I motivated her or inspired her to go teaching, because she originally was going to get into like drama, and that's what she was interested in when she first started. I'm like, do something where you can help people, right? But I saw she's a lot younger than me, and so that's why I saw how she was around my kids, and
Yeah.
and
Oh, that's so nice. That's so special.
right, and it was just amazing and I'm glad she listened to me, because kids love her, and they just something about her personality with the kids, and they trust her. If that makes sense, and I'm sure you have the
Oh,
same.
absolutely. I mean, absolutely. If the kids at my school or kids in general, I think it's because I'm silly, but I also tell a lot of stories that are personal, that are like, I use me as the person, and they're like, oh, so I humanize myself, right? Because you're a teacher, and you don't question the teacher, or you just and instead I'm like, well, let me tell you what Miss Torres did today. This was a real
Yeah, like my sister, and I think we joked that her drama background probably helped her, because you have to,
it's teaching. You're on all day.
you're on all day, and you have to be positive, and you got to be careful how you're going to react to certain situations, and you just
Yeah.
your tongue, as you know, sometimes.
Right. Yeah. And they're second graders, and they're just so funny. Like, luckily they're young, and they also think I'm very funny. So that works in my favor.
Well, they're very open at that age,
Oh yeah.
and like you said, they're very fun and open, and that is a really cool age. I think if I was a teacher, I'd rather be with the younger ones like that.
They are so open. It was so funny. We were doing reading today. And I go, I think we're going to double up on reading because we're a couple of lessons behind. And they go, yeah, we've missed a lot of lessons. And I go, excuse me? And they go, we've missed a lot of stories. And I go, what stories have we missed? And they're like, we haven't done this story. And I'm like, well, I replaced that story with another story. But they were like, you would have thought they were my supervisor. They're like, yeah, we missed a lot.
That's funny. But they're like, yeah, keeping you on toe.
Yeah. They're like, we've got your number.
We know Ms. Torres. That is so cool. I think I have lots of respect for what teachers do, and then specifically you writing a children's book to connect, mothers with their kids, and actually, I think this is not just mothers; it could be grandparents, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
it can be
Grandparents, teachers, adults, a grown-up, special grown-up in your life.
and mentors in a way. Yeah, that is.
Yeah.
I owe a lot to my confidence for some teachers too, right? You just, even though I had the one to get onto me for Purple Cow, but most of them were very positive with me and
Yeah.
encouraged me, because like, even though I did have an opinion, I got a little bit better as I got older. But I mean, I don't know why I was that way, but I think I was.
Good thing. I'm happy that you were.
Right. I think what it is, I was from, my brother and I grew up in, the 70s, and we were on our own a lot. It was totally, you can imagine. I mean, we didn't destroy anything, but my, the effect of my mom being married a couple times probably had an effect. Maybe that's why I was a little wild. But I shouldn't say I was wild. That's just my personality. I think
you were verbal. You knew how to articulate yourself, and you shared your.
And I had my older brother who was very good, very, very creative, but he didn't want to do that, right? So maybe I was just trying to compete with him.
Yeah, right. I mean, especially the middle. The middle, I think, is like plays such an interesting role in the family, right?
We're like, okay, I got this wild brother and a wild younger sister. I got to be normal. But then that's why I was always like telling everybody what to do.
Yeah, you're the one in charge. My middle sister is like the bossy one, the one who like will save the day.
How many siblings do you have?
3. We're 3, and so it's me. I'm the oldest. I was the guinea pig for my parents. My sister, and then my brother. I always say my brother, the third, had the best version of my parents. There's a big age difference. We're 14 years apart, and I think by that point, they matured in their ways of.
You are. My brother is 12 years older than my sister, but I'm in the middle. My brother and I are 4 years apart, and I'm 8 years older than my sister. So it's kind of flipped.
That's the same. My sister are 4 years apart. Me and my middle are 4 years apart, and then there's
That is so.
Oh my goodness, that's why we connect. That's why we can like relate to each other.
And I really have to do. My brother was very creative too, and I just appreciate the upbringing, even though it seemed kind of wild compared to what happened now. I really appreciated that, and we didn't get in trouble for that, and we didn't burn anything down. Not that I'm proud. And oh my God, it's just so funny. I'm gonna tell you a really quick story. I remember my mom was in the hospital early to give birth to our sister, right? I think my mom, I don't know, my sister's like on a nerve or something, and so my mom had to go in early or something like that. And I was telling the little girls, they're asking what was going on. I said, my mom's giving birth, and I said, what was that? So I was trying to show. I didn't even know that, Nancy. You know what I'm saying? Like, I didn't. I was just. And so my neighbor's parents were like, "Oh, what's wrong with her?" But I was just wanted to tell everybody, this is how you give birth. So
that happened to my sister. My sister had a younger friend, and she was like, and then her mom spoke to her about like, we can't share certain things, and it was because that age difference. You now know where a kid's coming from and all that.
What happens? And they're like, what? I mean, I wasn't very, specific, but they're like, how does it come out? I'm like, I don't know, it was just, and so my brother was like, oh my God, but he was like, Bridget, be quiet. And then I remember, I was just a wild kid. All right, now I think about it. Sorry,
that is awesome. That is awesome. That's an awesome story.
I used to run around without a shirt when I was like 8, right? And then
it was days.
Right. And the neighbors got on to me, and I'm like, my brother doesn't have a shirt on, and they're like, well, you're a girl. I said, but there's nothing there yet. I was just, I'm sorry. My poor parents, now that I think about it.
That's a fantastic, these are great stories.
Right. I'm sure you had something similar, but when you're.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. I think I 100% had something that I don't even remember mostly, but my parents were like, our neighbor had a pool. And I wanted to go in the pool, and I just began to like undress myself. And I was like, no, that's not what you do. But it was like, I guess, I don't know, maybe in my head it was like similar to taking a shower. Like you're just gonna, you're going swimming.
Right. Who says you have to have a full swimsuit on? Right.
Right. Like, okay. And I'm like, I don't know. I mean, I don't know. But the neighbors were like, no.
And that's when they called my father, because my mom was still in the hospital. giving birth. And I think it was August. That's what it was. It was hot.
It was hot. Yeah, it's hot. I mean, why would I want to put on a shirt?
I wanted to be like my brother. And we're all good role models. And I just think nowadays, Lord help me out. Who knows, I'd probably be in trouble. But I do appreciate, the background that we all have. And I think siblings have such a big impact. And you being a teacher, and I realized that I would not have been a good teacher, so I didn't go that route. But you being a teacher is so helpful for the kids. And you created this beautiful book, which is called Say It With Me. And what is the name of your illustrator?
Zoe Black. Zoe Black is she just did a phenomenal illustrations.
That's good. How did you connect with Zoe? I'm just curious.
So We Penny Press found the illustrator, and it just worked so beautifully. And she just knocked it out of the park. I mean, I when the book was all done and I saw it, I just said, I really am full of gratitude for you bringing the story to life. It's one thing to read the words because I know the characters in my head, but to see it in these gorgeous illustrations was just it's still so amazing to me.
And I think it's really great. It's very creative. I think it's important for kids to be creative.
Yeah.
You're encouraging it, and they're being creative with their parent or another adult, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'm always pushing the creativity. I'm always like, they'll come up to me, especially if they're coloring or they're like, I messed up. I'm like, well, who says you messed up? They're like, well, I'm like, well, do you like it? And they're like, yeah. And I'm like, so then go with it. Keep going with it. This is your creation. You're the illustrator. You're the writer. This is you.
I love it. That is so good. You're encouraging them to be themselves, right? And do it. And we have a lot of too many restrictions sometimes, I think, on things. I mean, it's important, but it's still good to be. My phone is ringing here. Sorry.
No, it's okay.
Recording. I had it on mute, but I think it's so cool what you're doing in Wheat Penny Press, what they're doing. They have mostly children's books too, right?
Yes.
I certainly look forward to you doing more work like this. And I'm
thank you.
And so where can people learn more about you, Nancy?
So they can go to my website, IamNancyTorres.com. They can also find me on Instagram with the same handle, I am Nancy Torres, and all the links to how to purchase Say It With Me are there. You can either go to Amazon or you can go to Wheat Penny Press directly. But yeah, if you just go to my website, you can connect all to it.
That's awesome. And for those listening, I will have it in the description, the link for IamNancyTorres.com. And I really love connecting with you, Nancy. This is so cool.
Thank you so much.
With you.
Yes. We'll have to share more stories and do this again soon.
Thanks again for your time, Nancy. And thank for everybody for listening.